J.B. Morin paper on, I think it was 2011, technical application of force, was very, very clear that as you lose the ability to retain horizontal force, you start to slow down. Simple as that. Okay? So that's and so when you're trying to get an athlete to put more force on the ground horizontally, like they're already quite vertical, how do we improve it? One of the easiest ways to improve it and to improve the mechanics is light sleds. There's a lot of people do heavy sleds, but doing light, really fast sleds does one thing in particular. It keeps ground contact specific. If you slow ground contact down too far, it doesn't become running anymore. It becomes pushing, right? Now, I'm not going on there's an element of that for acceleration, but I think if we just stick with running fast, maximum velocity,
gotcha.
You have to keep ground contact quick, but a light horizontal sled will do two things, right? It will, number one, force you to get your mechanics better. It forces the athlete to get front side, and it will force them to pull to the ground faster to increase thigh angular velocity, right? It's what you would call constraint-based learning. Because you're putting that light resistance on, the athlete must respond. It's like running up a hill. If I run you up a hill and I ask you to hold the same speed, let's just pick a speed, 7 meters per second. So it's not obscene, it's not super fast, but you can maintain that on a gentle hill. To run up a hill, you have to create vertical force to get up, but you have to create more horizontal because you've got to get one step in front of and above the previous step. Same as when you run on a curved treadmill, right? So there's a perfect mechanism right there. That resistance, that 1080 sort of stuff, sleds, hills, to create more pull on the ground, and maybe not so much even more pull on the ground, but better mechanics on the front side. So remember I said before there's a push-pull between kinetics and kinematics. If you improve the positioning of your foot to the ground, you will improve your horizontal force production. Because, without going too much detail, but spring mass model dictates that if you get your foot closer to your center of mass at ground contact time, you've got less angle to deal with. So your hip is in a much better angle to create more force.
Yeah, and you have less braking forces because you're not out in front of you.
Yeah, that's right. It's a hard one to convey on a podcast, but yeah, that's exactly it, man. Your foot's not as far in front. Mate, there's Derek Hanson's got this classic graphic of a Charlie Francis, the yellow guy and the red guy. Yeah. The yellow guy is very, very steep. He's got hardly any, his ground contact's just in front of his center of mass, and the red guy's a long way out in front.
Yep.
And that's what we're trying to avoid. That's when you run with hills or slight sleds, you're forced to become more like the yellow guy.
What about assisted running, if anybody's wondering that and they heard you just say that?
Yeah. I'm old enough that I did resisted running back in my university days, back in the late 80s. I had a track coach when I used to be an athlete of some description say, hey, let's try this. We'll drag you with a rubber band. Mate, the rubber band snapped. I got hit in the crown jewels. Never again. Lucky, mate, I've had 2 kids, so I've been okay. But I think overspeed is the domain of, my opinion, the elite setup. So when you look at, I forget his name, the Italian guy who won the gold in the 100 2 Olympics back. You saw him running overspeed. He got in. They had a golf cart, a souped-up golf cart with a wind cage around. He ran in the slipstream, so he had no wind resistance. Like that sort of stuff's the domain of the elite athlete. I think going overspeed, the number of times I've got a guy just down the road from me, sells himself as a sprint coach. He's got a 1080, and he does overspeed with a few kids. And I just sit there looking, going, man, you're going to hurt somebody, because as soon as they start to pull them, the natural brake reflex comes in, and we get now this overstride, and now you've got overstride with more speed and a force pulling you. I think there's so much we could do without it, and I think if in the right hands and the right coaches, it's a thing. But yeah, it's not something I use a lot. Not since the 80s, mate.
What has been one of the opposite of like the best things where you're like, all right, this has been an awesome, like you talked about TK and you talked about that NFL team, the success stories. What has been something that you're like, man, you've heard or people have called you and you're like, okay, that is a misapplication. How can I make sure that, people don't do this? And the reason I ask that is when I was on job interviews and I advocate to other people is, hey, ask what are the 3 best things that I would do a great job in your eyes? All right, what are 3 things that I should never do that via negativa?
Yeah. The biggest mistake I see is people moving outside of what I think we can do. I say very clearly where our limits are, and they are straight line running. When we start to get people going off tangent, I've had a few guys try to run curves, and also, hey, we put a sled on and can we measure the forces with that? I'm like, no, because the accelerometer responds completely differently. It's not a force plate, right?
Yeah.
If you put your force plates or sensors in your shoe or something like that, you're going to see change in force. That's not what we're about. The way we estimate and the way we use a surrogate of force is looking at how the body center of mass changes. So the worst applications I see are when people go too fast and they don't understand the principles of what we're trying to do. Like that we fit into a very fine box that when it's used really well, it's a powerful source of information. But if it's not plug and play, mate. I'm not an iPhone. You can't just, you open an iPhone, everyone knows how to use it, right? Like it's just intuitive these days. We're not quite that. We're a new technology. Not only that, we're a new technology, but we're also a new body of information. Like in that, man, I'll ask you, Justin, like you know what ground contact is, you know what triangular velocity is, you know what vertical. But have you worked with them every day? Do you know how they respond every day to training? You don't, because it's not something you've had, right? I'll tell you this, 2004, I was one of the first teams in the world to have a box of GPS units put on my desk. GP Sports, 2004.
GP Sport, baby. Shout out Rod Lindell, my man.
Yeah, Rod Lindell. There you go.
My man.
I was head of the Wallabies performance, and I got them, and I was like, and what do we do with these? But 20 years later, mate, they're ubiquitous. Everybody knows what to do with them. So what I'm saying is running mechanics, no matter who's doing them, are relatively new to everyone. When you start measuring them regularly and you can see how they interact, it's a new body of information because back in the day, did I know what sprint volumes were like? Did I know any of that stuff?
No, you kind of had an idea.
We were guessing, mate. We were guessing. Mate,
Thanks for watching that video. If you enjoyed it, click right here for videos just like that, and make sure you click here to subscribe to our channel. Have a great rest of your day.